At the battlefield of Zhang Yi base, Ruan Tinghai was completely covered in a layer of transparent ice armor, gradually merging into the icy ground like mercury flowing out. At the shelter near the outer front line, artillery continued to fire relentlessly, confronting three opposing forces. Ruan Tinghai dashed toward the snow wall of the shelter at an astonishing speed. From above, Ruan Tinghai looked like a frog swimming on the surface of the snow. In an instant, the tanks behind the ice wall were also flipped over. The ice wall exploded, sharp ice shards flying everywhere. Zhang Yi and his teammates witnessed this scene. Uncle Wang gasped in surprise, while Chun-Li stared blankly at Uncle Wang, remaining silent. Ruan Tinghai continued the assault. His right hand touched the wall and activated his power. A gigantic ice wall, like wallpaper being torn apart, erupted with a loud bang. The steel frame inside lost its support and collapsed with a crash. This power left Zhang Yi breathless in astonishment. Ruan Tinghai's strength was clearly many times greater than Chun-Li's. Ruan Tinghai sneered, confidently proclaiming, "In this world of ice and snow, I am the king. Machine guns and cannons may be effective against ordinary people, but they are utterly meaningless against a mutant person controlling ice and snow like me." Then, Ruan Tinghai ordered everyone to charge in, suppressing the enemy with coordinated firepower alongside Zhao Yu base attacking the ice and snow front line. All the soldiers from the two bases quickly received the command and launched an attack towards the ice wall. Ruan Tinghai used his superpower to break through the ice and snow wall, causing it to explode with a loud bang. The steel frame inside lost its support and collapsed. A large breach was created with many pieces of ice and snow scattering everywhere like glass. This power surprised everyone. Zhang Yi calmly said to everyone, "Let's start moving." He no longer cared that the defense line had been breached, as it was merely a barrier made of ice and snow that could not withstand all attacks. He did not expect the opponent to have such a powerful mutant person controlling ice and snow, able to tear through his barricade like it was wallpaper. However, he had prepared a second line of defense behind the barrier, with the participation of Uncle Wang, Lian Yu, and others. Ruan Tinghai laughed loudly, destroying the ice and snow barrier and quickly opening a large breach. But at that moment, a beam of light unexpectedly intercepted him. Ruan Tinghai's gaze sharpened as he turned around and saw a chilling flash cross his neck. At Ruan Tinghai's neck, the thick ice armor shattered and blue ice shards flew around. Ruan Tinghai quickly rolled on the ground, dodging a fatal blow. He realized that the person who had come was a woman wielding a long and sharp sword, her face filled with murderous intent. Ruan Tinghai did not expect that she could slice through his ice armor. Blood began to spurt from his neck. He was on high alert as his ice armor was made from refined ice, offering defense comparable to high-grade metals. He had not anticipated nearly having his throat cut. Not wanting to continue fighting, Ruan Tinghai immediately merged into the layer of ice beneath him. At the snowy environment, his combat strength was at its peak. Lian Yu furrowed his brow and shouted, "Chun-Li!" At that moment, Chun-Li had also arrived. He had not expected to face a mutant person controlling ice and snow who was much stronger than him, but fortunately, Zhang Yi was there, so he didn't have to fight alone. Chun-Li did not hesitate and immediately lifted a large chunk of ice and snow. Since the layer of snow around the shelter was quite thin, lifting a large block of ice was as easy for Chun-Li as flipping his hand. Ruan Tinghai, hiding in the snow, saw that the situation was not in his favor and had to jump out from inside. Lian Yu was ready to wait for him to appear. The moment Ruan Tinghai manifested, she unleashed a deadly slashing blow at him. A sound of impact rang out. The sword, over 1 meter long, shattered the blue ice armor on his chest. Ruan Tinghai felt a severe pain in his chest. A bright red bloodstain appeared, beginning to seep out. He struggled to endure the excruciating pain and quickly used his superpower to create a new layer of ice armor covering his chest, temporarily stopping the bleeding. He did not expect that in Zhang Yi's hideout, there would be such a powerful close combat master. Ruan Tinghai thought to himself, after all, his goal had been achieved, which was to break the gap in the defense line. As he contemplated this, he decided to retreat. Lian Yu withdrew her sword, ready to attack, but Ruan Tinghai quickly fell back through the opening. When Lian Yu intended to chase after him, countless warriors from the base suddenly appeared in front of her, rushing forward to attack like a rainstorm. Lian Yu took a deep breath and then decisively unsheathed her dagger and charged into the dense crowd. Chun-Li witnessed this scene and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Lian Yu, calm down. Zhang Yi said to everyone, "As long as we keep the gap secure, let her go. Lian Yu needs to vent. Just let her fight for a while to help relieve her pressure. It's her choice, and I have no reason to stop her." Zhang Yi continued, "The big battle is still ahead, so everyone be careful. Their mutant persons are also on their way here. In this tense fighting phase, the influence of ordinary people is decreasing, while mutant persons are the toughest challenge. Indeed, after the front line was breached, the firepower net showed gaps and the pressure on the Alliance dropped significantly. They rushed toward the shelter all at once. At this moment, it was mostly the mutant persons leading the crowd. Xiao Hong Lion jumped onto an armored vehicle, tightly grasping a bottle of liquor, and took a big swig of strong alcohol. Then, she unleashed a long stream of fire like a dragon towards the icy front line. The solid ice wall melted in an instant, and even the heavy weapons were affected, unable to unleash their full power. The morale of the Alliance immediately soared as they shouted and charged forward. They clearly saw that behind the icy front line was just an empty space, with a magnificent hiding building in the back. Xiao Hong Lion shouted, "Victory is right in front of us, let's go!" Liu Kan, nicknamed Hound, excitedly roared. Then, using all four legs, he dashed quickly towards the gap in the defensive line. But at that moment, a heavy snowstorm began to appear around the defensive line. Chunlei summoned a blizzard, creating an obstacle at the gap. After transforming, Hua Hua stood in front of the gap, looking at the attacking soldiers and emitting a deafening roar. Hundreds of soldiers were shaken, their ears bleeding from the pain, and some even lost consciousness from headaches and dizziness. They exclaimed, "Oh my ears!" Heavy footsteps echoed. Uncle Wang, transformed into a 2-meter-tall giant, wrapped in ammunition belts, carried 2 machine guns, and stood guard at the gap. Uncle Wang let out a furious roar and firmly pulled the trigger. The vision of the Alliance was obscured by the snow. They rushed to find a way and immediately saw streams of bullets piercing through the snow, shattering the bodies of individual soldiers. The sound of machine guns echoed painfully in the blood-misty air, a result of bullets enhanced with superpower, breaking the soldiers' bodies, causing them to fall like wheat being harvested. Although their combat uniforms had good bullet resistance, they could not withstand the frenzied attacks from the Gatling guns just a few hundred paces away. On another front of the battlefield, Lian Yu had plunged into a frenzied slaughter. Her superpower is quite simple, belonging to the category of physical enhancement like Lang Feng, with the ability to comprehensively boost bodily abilities, including speed, strength, reflexes, and even intuition. Enriched by her martial arts talents, Lian Yu resembled a winged tiger when she unleashed her superpower. She fought boldly on the battlefield, with no bullet able to touch her. Each strike of her blade caused a soldier to fall. Lian Yu's objective was extremely clear. Hound Liu Kan stood not far from her, his predatory gaze fixated on her. "Chopping my people into mincemeat. That doesn't make any sense, does it?" He said, his eyes flashing with a strange red hue. Lian Yu's figure was enveloped by a peculiar aura, a terrifying presence that Zhang Yi and Yang Xin had never witnessed. Liu Kan also sensed the unusualness of this opponent as he licked his crimson tongue and said, "Quite interesting." Then he bent down, his body beginning to gradually grow larger, his snow-white fangs elongated, sharp as blades. Lian Yu's gaze did not leave Liu Kan. She slowly sheathed her sword, her body gradually lowering. As a martial arts master, she was proficient in many forms of international martial arts, especially swordsmanship, capable of deciding her opponent's life or death in a single move. Liu Kan's eyes flashed with madness and bloodlust, and he roared angrily. His figure became blurry, gliding through the air, leaving behind a hazy image that no one could catch in time. As a mutant beastman, he possessed the terrifying strength and attack speed of a gray wolf, enough to stop bullets. A furious wind swept across the battlefield, and Lian Yu could not keep up with Liu Kan's figure. At that moment, her gaze became sharper than ever. In midair, Liu Kan struck with his sharp claws from behind. Just as the claws were about to stab into her, Lian Yu almost instantly drew her sword, cutting off both of Liu Kan's arms. His arms fell to the ground, leaving only wrist joints with red fluid splattering everywhere. Lian Yu continued to swing her sword, severing Liu Kan's throat and elbows in succession. She coldly looked down at the sword stained with red fluid while Liu Kan's corpse lay scattered not far away. Return to the breach area. The battle has become more intense than ever. Hua Hua, Chunlei, and Uncle Wang are exhausted, trying to defend and take down countless soldiers. However, when 3 other powerful mutant persons joined the fight, the situation quickly changed. The masters from the Zhao Yu and Yangsheng bases are not few, and after breaking through the defense line, this is also the moment when their mutant persons unleash their power. Ruan Tinghai, after being injured, temporarily withdrew with 5 other mutant persons rushed into the battle. Uncle Wang, with a machine gun still smoking from the previous fierce battle, suddenly noticed a green shadow flash next to him. In an instant, Chen Jingguan appeared right beside Uncle Wang. Chen Jingguan moved like a boneless snake, wrapping tightly around Uncle Wang and beginning to constrict. Uncle Wang panicked, trying to exert strong force to escape the binding. Chen Jingguan smirked coldly and said, "Even bullets can't penetrate me. Do you think you can escape?" Uncle Wang gritted his teeth in anger, struggling desperately but unable to break free from Chen Jingguan's tight grip. He was like a giant white python, constricting Uncle Wang. Although Uncle Wang is very strong, he still cannot resist Chen Jingguan's rubber superpower, especially his exceptional resistance ability. Fortunately, Hua Hua witnessed the scene and let out a powerful roar. The sound of the cat's roar was like the roar of the king of the forest, resonating loudly. Hua Hua's roar left Chen Jingguan dizzy, almost causing him to lose consciousness. His eyes turned white and his face became dazed as he mumbled in a daze, "What the hell, damn?" Uncle Wang fought back fiercely, and when he felt Chen Jingguan's pressure lessen, he immediately extended his large hand, tightly grasping his opponent and pulling him forcefully away from himself. However, despite several attempts to pull and yank, he found Chen Jingguan as difficult to detach as a piece of chewing gum. After a moment of struggling, Uncle Wang finally tightened his grip and wore Chen Jingguan out, rendering him limp like a string. At this moment, Chang Ye furrowed his brow. He understood that standing firm and resisting was no longer meaningful, and he did not want Uncle Wang and the others to sacrifice. He had very few friends, while reinforcements from the Zhao Yu and Yangsheng bases could arrive at any moment. Chang Yi then ordered, "Everyone, retreat to the hideout." Immediately afterward, he also informed Lian Yu, "You too, Lian Yu. Don't face them alone. Stay rational." Upon receiving the order, Zhang Yi's group fought while retreating. Lian Yu remained expressionless, wiped the blood off her face, and decided to follow the order and return to the hideout. After a day of fighting, her superpower had also been significantly depleted. Without Yang Mai preparing food, she would have struggled to endure this long. But this time she had yielded a lot, continuing to fight no longer held any meaning, nor would she reach the larger bases. Before retreating, Lian Yu quickly confirmed Liu Can's condition and then ran back to the shelter. From above, Zhang Yi used his sniper rifle to provide cover for Uncle Wang and Chun Li, helping Lian Yu and the large cat Hua Hua return safely. When he saw his teammates return to the inner defensive line, Zhang Yi also breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Lian Yu did not act recklessly and did not rush into a deadly situation. Thanks to the support from Zhang Yi's sniper rifle and the space portal, the group fought while retreating and successfully returned to the entrance of the hideout. Zhang Yi's gaze followed the group from the worship the Snow Sect. They just stood by and watched from a distance without participating in the fight. He focused on the target and murmured, "Still watching, huh? Ha ha! Let me teach them a lesson." Zhang Yi decided to warn them, ordering Yang Sin, use all remaining firepower, aim at the worshippers of the Snow Sect, and fire a volley. The defensive line of the worship the Snow Sect did not suffer serious damage because they had not truly exerted their full strength. Moreover, Zhang Yi did not intend to kill them, but with their observing attitude, he did not hesitate to act, not giving them a chance to interfere. Yang Sin received the order and quickly moved, her hands skillfully flying over the keyboard. In a matter of moments, the machine gun fire system was activated, and a barrage of bullets shot towards the soldiers of the Worship the Snow Sect. Zhang Yixian initially intended to wait for the right moment to act and assist the winning side. However, the sudden attack from the firepower caused heavy casualties among the soldiers of the Worship the Snow Sect, leaving them unprepared. Angry, Zhang Yixian activated the defensive shield, muttering angrily, "Zhang Yi, damn!" He quickly retreated behind the shield, furious that Zhang Yi dared to attack them, but he also understood that it was Zhang Yi's response to their hesitation. Zhang Yixian took a deep breath, reinforced the defensive shield, and reminded himself that it was time to act. After a while, Zhang Yixian commanded the followers, "Listen up, follow me to the shelter." He believed that Zhang Yi's failure would bring them no benefits, and the real enemy they hated were the major bases. At this time, he ordered a group of Worship the Snow Sect followers to move through the crowd towards the shelter. This area had been surrounded, with someone throwing smoke bombs around, obstructing Zhang Yi's snipers. He could not activate the infrared function to prevent the enemy from using explosives to harm them when visibility was lost. In the shelter, Uncle Wang looked out with everyone and saw soldiers swarming like ants, feeling worried. Uncle Wang asked Zhang Yi for his opinion. "Zhang Yi, what should we do now? Should we abandon the two-story building above ground and hide below?" Zhang Yi calmly replied, "What is there to worry about? Our shelter has very strong defensive capabilities. It won't be easily breached." Right after that, he heard a rumbling sound coming from behind the mist. Through the smoke, he vaguely saw a group of people dispersing and a large bulldozer slowly approaching. Zhang Yi frowned, sensing that something was off. He thought to himself, "It seems this is their attacking force." Zhang Yi opened the door to the strange space and took out dozens of grenades and explosives and told everyone, "You all go down to the first floor and wait. Hold the grenades and explosives in your hands," he coldly said. "Let's let them taste some hot stuff." From the window protected by the door to the space, Zhang Yi began to throw grenades and explosives outside. The enemies who had not yet had time to rejoice were immediately engulfed by the terrifying sound of an explosion. Blood and body parts flew everywhere. Grenades and explosives were continuously thrown out, emptying the weapon stockpile of the Extortion base owned by Zhang Yi. He laughed coldly. "Did you really think that breaking through the first line of defense would lead to victory? How foolish." Zhang Yi continued to throw out a large bundle of explosives and thought to himself, "This shelter is my greatest advantage." The explosions echoed ceaselessly, killing more than 100 people in an instant, causing the remaining soldiers to panic and flee, their hearts racing as if they would burst. However, in the face of Zhang Yi's formidable combat ability, they could not counterattack. Some tried to shoot back, but the bullets fired at the spatial door bounced back and hit them instead. The shockwaves from the explosions cleared away the fog, and Zhang Yi finally saw clearly the driver of that construction vehicle. A familiar face appeared, and after a moment of thinking, he realized it was Wu Huai-ren, the security guard for War Dragon Company, an old friend. Zhang Yi continued to throw explosives while muttering, "I never expected they would have something like that. No wonder they are so confident in attacking my shelter." He then threw a grenade in that direction, but this construction vehicle, the most crucial element of the attack, was extremely well protected. As Zhang Yi's grenade flew toward it, unexpectedly, a large figure appeared in midair. His body seemed to be made of rubber, bouncing the grenade back out. An explosion followed immediately. That was Chen Jingguan, the deputy officer of the Zhao Yu base, who possessed the superpower of Rubber Man. Meanwhile, Wu Huai-ren took advantage of this opportunity, maneuvering the construction vehicle closer to the shelter. A long mechanical arm extended from the vehicle, directed at a specific spot on the wall, and began cutting. Xiao Hong Lian quickly pointed and ordered, disperse an attack from different angles to obscure his line of sight. At that moment, Zhang Yi was holding a grenade ready to throw when he suddenly heard the building's artificial intelligence system warning, warning. The shelter wall is being affected by high temperature cutting. The current damage level is 0.001%. The young man Zhang Yi was a bit puzzled when he saw the cutting machine's arm continuously attacking the wall of the shelter. He immediately realized what was happening. Wu Huai-ren, who had previously worked at the shelter manufacturing company, could control the construction vehicle to assault. Thanks to his understanding of the weaknesses, Wu Huai-ren knew how to create a breach. "How long until they can break through?" Zhang Yi asked. The system replied, "At the current speed, it will take about over an hour to completely breach through." Zhang Yi felt somewhat reassured. If it took that much time just to break through, creating a hole large enough for an intrusion would likely take all day. During that time, he had enough opportunity to eliminate many enemies. He declared if the enemy dared to risk it all, they would face severe consequences. Even if breached, Zhang Yi could still move down to the underground bunker, while the surrounding forces would suffer significant losses with catastrophic casualties. He decided not to worry about the construction vehicle and instead focused on using his sniper rifle and grenade effectively to eliminate enemies. Although the smoke from the bombs affected assassination performance, just one accurate shot would definitely bring the enemy down. In the first floor of the shelter, Uncle Wang and the others could not see outside, but they could still clearly hear the sound of machinery crashing into the wall, which made everyone anxious. Chun Lei then asked Zhang Yi via the communication system, "Brother Zhang, should we retreat?" Zhang Yi replied calmly, "Don't rush, wait a little longer." Only 20 minutes had passed since the battle began, but the opponent had fallen into a tightly encircled and weak position, having to defend passively. Despite facing the strongest forces in Tianhai City, it was hard to believe that Zhang Yi and his team had eliminated hundreds without any casualties. However, with the appearance of Wu Huai-ren, continuing the fight could compromise the shelter's sustainability. Zhang Yi quietly waited, thinking of ways to take advantage of the chaotic situation. The attacking forces were responsible in different directions, and so far, the Zhao Yu and Yangsheng bases had not detected his presence. Both bases had suffered heavy losses, and the worshippers of the Snow Sect would certainly not miss this opportunity. Xiao Hong Lian and Ruan Tinghai were commanding from the rear, carefully observing the shelter before them. They felt that the situation was set, but no one anticipated that this small shelter would be so difficult to breach. To take control of it, they had lost a significant number of soldiers. However, these losses could be offset if they secure abundant supplies from Zhang Yi. They could also share the resources from Xai Shan and Lu Jiang. At this moment, each member of the worship the Snow Sect began to approach the crowd without attracting attention. Previously, the relationship between the major forces and the Worship the Snow Sect was not good, but this time the Worship the Snow Sect stood by their side. Hundreds of Worship the Snow Sect members dispersed into every corner, their faces beaming with bright smiles. Some members of the Worship the Snow Sect passed by, chatting intimately with soldiers from the two bases, and then suddenly activated the explosives attached to them. Zhang Yi and Yang Sheng, the leaders of the two major bases, both thought victory was in their grasp, but unexpectedly, their soldiers suddenly exploded violently. At this moment, all the soldiers were concentrated around the shelter at a high density. The Worship the Snow Sect's suicide bombers immediately eliminated a large group of enemies. Even though it was just ordinary explosives with sufficient weight, it still caused death. Flames soared into the sky, engulfing the surrounding area of the shelter. Xiao Hong Lian and Ruan Tinghai both stared wide-eyed in disbelief. What is happening? Where did this explosion come from? During the attack, they had carefully dismantled the explosives to prevent Zhang Yi from planting mines. So where did these explosives come from? A soldier hastily reported via radio. It's the Worship the Snow Sect. These madmen are carrying explosives on themselves to commit suicide and destroy us. Ruan Tinghai and Xiao Hong Lian began to panic. Ruan Tinghai was startled and said fiercely, "What? Those damn bastards dare to take advantage of the situation to attack us." By the time they realized something was wrong, it was already too late. Shang Yixian commanded the devotees of the Worship the Snow Sect, fearless of death, and launched a direct attack on the soldiers of the two bases. At this point, the losses of the two bases had become catastrophic, with casualties exceeding 70% and the remaining soldiers numbered less than 200. Meanwhile, the Worship the Snow Sect still maintained a large force, continuing their surprise attacks from behind with no signs of stopping. The soldiers of the two bases were completely unprepared and suffered a devastating strike. Although their weapons were quite simple and lacked good defensive equipment, each of them shouted their passionate slogans, eyes reddened, ready to sacrifice their lives. Their fearlessness had instilled terror in the enemy. Shang Yixian, with a cold and sharp gaze, suddenly displayed a crazed look. He raised both hands, controlling two large cars, and hurled them down towards Xiao Hong Lian and Ruan Tinghai. "Don't blame us!" Ruan Tinghai and Xiao Hong Lian saw Zhang Yixian from afar, their eyes showing deep anger. If looks could kill, Zhang Yixian would have died 1,000 times. Ruan Tinghai used the power of ice and snow to stop the cars, while Xiao Hong Lian, with her fiery temper, charged through the top of the car and sent it flying with a single punch. Zhang Yixian stood in midair, laughing maniacally. "Ha ha 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 ha. Xiao Hong Lian and Ruan Tinghai, you two are doomed. Today is the last day for both of you. The Worship the Snow Sect has endured for too long, having to yield to major bases with every conflict in exchange for a chance to survive." Zhang Yixian seized this proud opportunity, laughing incessantly, releasing the sorrow in his heart. "Die, all of you. From now on, Tianhai City will no longer be a place where you can act freely." Zhang Yixian and his followers began a frenzied assault. The actions of the Worship the Snow Sect also caught the soldiers in the shelter in a crossfire. Zhang Yi observed from a distance, smiling with grenades in hand. "We can close the door and beat the dogs. The Worship the Snow Sect attacks from the front, while the escape route has been blocked from behind, leaving the soldiers of the two major bases with no way out." At the same time, those in the Su Chun Lei shelter, Uncle Wang and Lian Yu, were hurriedly eating energy food. The shelter door opened and Lian Yu and the group, having restored their strength thanks to the superpower developed by Yang Mei, charged out from the back, beginning to eliminate the soldiers and mutant people from the two bases. The battlefield situation changed too quickly for anyone to predict this turn of events. Even Xing Tian, who had always tried to appear calm on the mountain, was wide-eyed and astonished. Why did Worship the Snow Sect suddenly betray us? He pondered and suddenly felt a chill down his spine. It dawned on him that Worship the Snow Sect and Zhang Yi had signed an agreement beforehand. If he were to attack Zhang Yi today, he would end up in a similar situation to Yang Sheng and Zhao Yu. Although defeat was not certain, heavy losses were unavoidable. How lucky, truly fortunate. Xing Tian patted his chest, satisfied with his decision. Now I don't need to do anything, and I've already benefited greatly. Suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind, and the smile on Xing Tian's face widened even more. They're fighting to this extent. Isn't the King Fu base going to become the strongest power in Tianhai City? Ha ha ha. On the battlefield, the situation had completely reversed. The unexpected attack by Worship the Snow Sect caused heavy casualties to the alliance of the two major bases, leaving them unable to withstand any longer. Moreover, Zhang Yi's team suffered no losses at all. Uncle Wang, carrying two Gatling guns loaded with ammunition, turned around and began to fire wildly. Chun-Lei used his ice and snow superpower to provide cover. The two worked seamlessly together, leaving the soldiers unable to respond. Lian Yu was all alone with a sword, charging into a herd of goats like a tiger. Each swing of her blade claimed a life. Zhang Yi was even more ruthless, maintaining a pace of killing one person every 2 seconds. In this chaotic battle, he even attacked mutant persons from 2 bases within a 300-meter range. His assassination skills were terrifying, as he had the ability to lock onto his target. In the midst of the chaos, no one could be fully vigilant. This ability created ideal conditions for Zhang Yi to strike. Suddenly, he aimed his gun at a mutant person and thought to himself, "Oh, here we go." A mutant person was trying to break out of the encirclement when he suddenly felt a tremendous force pulling in his neck. Moments later, his neck was snapped and his head flew off his body. Even in death, he had no idea how he had been killed. The person next to him witnessed this scene, his face contorted in horror. Xiao Hong Lian was also extremely frightened at this point, desperately trying to contact Xing Tian, hoping he and his army could come to the rescue. However, they could not get in touch with Xing Tian. In her anger, she shouted, "Damn it. Is he pretending to be dead?" On the other side, Ruan Tinghai felt a chill run down his spine. He had thought Xing Tian would leave an attack from behind the mountain, but by the time they surrounded the shelter, there was no sign of any members from the King Fu base. He was using his superpower while angrily muttering, "Xing Tian, he has definitely betrayed us." Even Ruan Tinghai, no matter how naive, understood the implications behind the situation. Without hesitation, he immediately ordered those under him, "Retreat. Retreat quickly. If we don't leave right now, it will be too late." Xiao Hong Lian was both frightened and wondered why Worship the Snow Sect and the King Fu base had ambushed them. But now, her anger was meaningless. If they continued to fight, they might have a small chance of winning, but the likelihood of total annihilation was even higher. As the leader, she could not allow her troops to take more risks. She shouted into the intercom, ordering the entire army to retreat. Taking a large gulp of liquor, she erected a brilliant burst of fire at Worship the Snow Sect. Immediately, dozens of people screamed in despair, reduced to ashes. They could only stand there waiting for death, unable to defend themselves. Xiao Hong Lian's body was enveloped in smoke, her whole body seemingly on fire, with red fragments like lava scattered across her form. It seemed Xiao Hong Lian had exhausted too much energy. Her face grew weary. Xiao Hong Lian jumped high with Ruan Tinghai, then fiercely charged forward, annihilating the members of Worship the Snow Sect. Chang Yixian, upon seeing this, did not dare to intervene. The power of the leaders at the 4 bases was extraordinary, and ordinary soldiers and mutant persons struggled to withstand it. His goal was merely to weaken the fighting strength of the 2 major bases without hoping to completely destroy them in this battle. Otherwise, the entire group of followers would be wiped out. Zhao Yu and the Yangsheng base joined forces, creating an escape route amid the sea of people. The 2 major bases, together with the mutant person forces, forged a path. Although Worship the Snow Sect was numerous, they were quickly broken through like snow meeting fire, creating a way out. As Xiao Hong Lian killed the soldiers of Worship the Snow Sect, she angrily shouted, "Get out of my way." Ruan Tinghai teamed up with her. The soldiers were horrifically killed by the 2 leaders of the 2 major bases. At this moment, the entire convoy suddenly sped up, looking for a way to escape. Wu Huai-ren, controlling the construction vehicle, had stopped breaking down walls and was continuously searching for a way out. He fearfully murmured, "This is bad. They are all gone, so who will cover me?" However, Zhang Yi had long been paying attention to those characters who posed a threat to the safety of the hideout. They could not escape Zhang Yi's sight. With just 1 bullet, he ended Wu Huai-ren's life, eliminating a major threat to the hideout. Wu Huai-ren was shot, fell from the vehicle, and died tragically. In the end, there was still no one to support him. Fewer than 100 soldiers from the 2 major bases managed to escape the encirclement. They left behind countless corpses, combat vehicles, and weapons, tiredly retreating to the east. Zhang Yi and the Snow Sect did not pursue, also because the people of the Snow Sect were no longer able to chase after them. Zhang Yi watched the remnants retreating, smirking, and confidently saying, "Do you think I will let you go?" Zhang Yixian looked in the direction they were retreating, raised his fist, and shouted loudly, "We have won!" Behind them, the believers cheered excitedly. Each person was enthusiastic, even hugging each other to celebrate. This was the first time the Snow Sect had achieved victory against the major bases. Although they lost more than 500 people in this battle, for the Snow Sect, it was still a memorable victory. Most of the dead were just ordinary believers who could be replaced. In contrast, the losses of the 2 major bases were elite soldiers who were difficult to train and replace quickly. After the battle, the strength of the 2 major bases was severely weakened. Zhang Yi and Worship the Snow Sect emerged as the ultimate victors. Zhang Yi quietly retracted his sniper rifle, watching the remnants of the two major factions fleeing, then looked towards Worship the Snow Sect, where everyone was overjoyed. For a moment, he felt moved to have fought alongside these people. This battle had caused the greatest damage to all three forces, yet Zhang Yi himself had almost come out unscathed. However, he looked at the believers of Worship the Snow Sect and thought to himself, these heretical cultists are truly a menace. In the future, they will become a great threat. The fearless fighting style of Worship the Snow Sect deeply terrified Zhang Yi. Upon careful reflection, he realized that the believers of Worship the Snow Sect were all devoted followers who did not fear death. If he wanted to eradicate them at the cost of his own team's members, it would definitely not be worth it. Moreover, Worship the Snow Sect had numerous individuals. Unless he killed all of their mutant persons, eliminating the ordinary believers would not be very meaningful, as they could quickly be replaced. After some contemplation, Zhang Yi decided not to attack them. He put away his gun and stepped down the stairs. Looking towards the back of the mountain, he saw that Xing Tian indeed honored the contract, not attacking them and merely standing by. This made Zhang Yi regard Xing Tian even more highly. This guy remained wholeheartedly committed to his obligations. Of course, this was also related to the fact that Zhang Yi and his team had demonstrated formidable strength. Zhang Yi took out his phone and called Xing Tian. You can come and collect the leftover food. Xing Tian quickly replied, we will be there right after we take care of a few other things. Zhang Yi frowned, thinking, other things? He vaguely guessed something but did not care too much. Leaving the hideout, he saw Uncle Wang, Chun-Li, and Hua covered in blood. Chun-Li was panting from exhaustion, but fortunately, everyone had used Yang Mei's food, a special type of food that helps quickly restore energy. Otherwise, with such high and prolonged combat intensity, they would not have been able to hold on this long. Before leaving, Zhang Yi patted each person on the shoulder. Good job! Everyone, we have won. When he patted Lian Yu's shoulder, he felt that her shoulder was as hard as steel. Zhang Yi comforted her. Don't worry, the battle is over now. You have avenged your student. Lian Yu's cold, murderous gaze suddenly softened. She leaned tiredly against Zhang Yi, and it was then that he noticed a deep wound on her neck. Although the blood had clotting, the wound was still very frightening. Zhang Yi paused for a moment before quickly embracing Lian Yu and taking her back to the hideout. Holding her in his arms, he thought to himself, this crazy woman. Earlier, Lian Yu, that reckless woman, had charged into the enemy's battlefield alone, drawing attention with her fierce hacking and slashing, pulling a massive amount of gunfire toward herself. The fact that she survived was truly just luck. Zhang Yi brought Lian Yu to the medical room, and Kai Ni immediately prepared for the surgery. Before she could rejoice in victory, Kai Ni was startled by Lian Yu's wounds and hurriedly prepared medical instruments and medications, starting to staunch the bleeding and stitch up the injuries. She gently said, Lian Yu, hold on. After handing Lian Yu over to Kai Ni, Zhang Yi returned to post-war tasks. Worship the Snow Sect and the King Fu base had lost more than half of their forces, with many mutant persons also losing their lives, but for them, this battle was completely worthwhile. The heavy sacrifices had given Worship the Snow Sect the opportunity for long-term development, and they were willing to accept this exchange. Zhang Yi remained vigilant, stepping closer to Zhang Yixian and saying from a distance, the battle is over. You can leave. From now on, the Xishan area will belong to me. No one is allowed to approach this place without my permission. Zhang Yixian bowed respectfully to Zhang Yi. Thank you for helping us achieve victory. According to the agreement, apart from the missionary, no one from Worship the Snow Sect will approach this area. Zhang Yixian continued, I hope that in the future the Worship the Snow Sect and you can live harmoniously, respecting each other. Zhang Yi smiled slightly. That's a given. After all, I'm a supporter of peace. Watching Zhang Yixian's figure gradually fade away, a glimmer of vigilance flashed in Zhang Yi's eyes. In fact, this time the biggest harvest did not belong to them, but to the Worship the Snow Sect. Zhang Yi had proven his strength, making other organizations dare not intrude on his territory. However, the Worship the Snow Sect had found an opportunity to survive and recover. With its strong ability to recruit followers, this sect would develop rapidly. Moreover, with the talent of the cult leader of Worship the Snow Sect, Yuan Kong Yi, their number of muted persons would increase rapidly, like a swarm of locusts. Previously, the Worship the Snow Sect could not develop due to the constraints of large bases. But now, no longer held back, how far would they grow? Will there come a day when they become too strong and possibly become a new enemy of Zhang Yi? All of this remains uncertain, but the likelihood is very high. Zhang Yi sensed something that the large bases had once feared. He muttered to himself, maybe I have unleashed a monster, but right now, I have no choice. Regardless of the other powers, for now, I can only cooperate with those forces that align with my interests. As for the future, let it take care of itself. After all, the expansion of the worship of the Snow Sect is just Zhang Yi's prediction. He quietly walked on the battlefield, collecting all useful supplies. The Alliance had prepared thoroughly, and their weapons were highly valuable, which could partly compensate for Zhang Yi's losses this time. Additionally, in this battle, quite a number of mutant persons had died. Zhang Yi had seen as many as 7 mutant persons falling in battle. Following his principle of not wasting, he wanted to absorb all the special abilities of these individuals. However, as soon as Zhang Yi found those mutant persons, he was surprised to discover that 3 of them had turned into soulless corpses. Zhang Yi felt that this situation was very strange because during the fight, no one should have enough strength left to do such things. What is happening? Could they have been absorbed by someone? But currently, there was no other explanation. With such intense fighting, there shouldn't be any special individuals absorbing the superpowers of these people. Zhang Yi decided not to investigate further, but to bring them back first and discuss later. After cleaning up the battlefield, Zhang Yi returned and said to his teammates with a smile, "Let's go, we are heading back. It's time for a good rest." Hua Hua jumped onto Zhang Yi, rubbing against his neck and quickly leaving a large streak of blood on him. In this battle, and become a powerful warrior, crushing many enemies. Zhang Yi gently patted its head. "Look, you just caused a commotion, getting yourself all covered in blood." Then Zhang Yi wrapped his left arm around Uncle Wang's neck and his right arm around Chun Lei. The 3 of them stood shoulder to shoulder, laughing happily as they returned to their hideout. "Let's go. We need to rest for a while." On the distant snowy fields, Xiao Hong Lian and Ruan Tinghai led the exhausted soldiers in a difficult retreat. They faced numerous challenges, highlighted by the stark contrast between their former prosperous times and this disastrous situation. The combined forces of both groups numbered less than 100, and even the strong mutant persons in the command team lost 5 of their members. This battle had nearly completely destroyed the armed forces of both bases. Ruan Tinghai was struck by Lian Yu with a blade, and his injury was not minor. His anger and resignation only intensified his pain. Ruan Tinghai slammed his fist against the vehicle, the loud bang expressing his inner fury. "Worship the Snow Sect and Xing Tian, these traitors." But anger changed nothing. A loss is a loss, and underestimated their opponents. They believed Zhang Yi only had a small group and an insignificant hideout. But when they actually confronted him, they realized how seriously mistaken they were. Just in terms of defensive firepower and the level of mutant persons, Zhang Yi's team was not inferior to the Saishan base of the past. Moreover, they had the advantage in defensive terrain and could even fight effectively when besieged. Xiao Hong Lian and Ruan Tinghai sat together in a vehicle during an emergency retreat. Most of their war vehicles had been destroyed, leaving only 4 operational ones. Hearing Ruan Tinghai complain, Xiao Hong Lian felt anger rising within her. She was not surprised by the betrayal of the worship of the Snow Sect, but why was the King Fu base also helping Zhang Yi? This was something she could not comprehend. If the Xingtian Legion from the King Fu base had participated in the battle, the situation on the battlefield would certainly not have been so dire. After all, that force specialized in large-scale warfare. Xingtian, how much benefit has Zhang Yi offered him to make him betray us? The more she thought about it, the angrier Xiao Hong Lian became. She took out her satellite phone, wanting to contact Xingtian to question him, but Ruan Tinghai suddenly stopped her. "Don't act impulsively." Xiao Hong Lian looked at him, not understanding his intentions. Ruan Tinghai spoke resolutely. "Xingtian and his group have not attacked us at all. They are just cowards who have never truly engaged in the fight. Therefore, I guess they received some benefits from Zhang Yi and chose to sit this one out without helping anyone." He gritted his teeth, cursing them for always being so cautious, never putting themselves in danger. If they could gain benefits without fighting, they would be more than happy to do so. The major powers that were once friends, acquaintances, and rivals of Ruan Tinghai made him very familiar with Xingtian's character. Xiao Hong Lian angrily said, "Then where is the contract between us? Xingtian has betrayed us, causing us heavy losses. What should we do now?" Ruan Tinghai sighed. "Right now, both of our forces have suffered serious damage. Can we find Xingtian to settle the score? We can only hope he doesn't pursue us relentlessly." However, just as he finished speaking, they heard a loud explosion, like an avalanche or the sound of a large army's hooves. Ruan Tinghai and Xiao Hong Lian turned pale together. They recognized the sound. It was the Xingtian Legion. In the vast snowy field, Xingtian laughed loudly, riding on the back of a snow dog charging towards them at quite a speed. "Xiao Hong Lian, Ruan Tinghai, where are you hurriedly running off to?" Xiao Hong Lian and Ruan Tinghai had no choice but to face the Xingtian Legion at its strongest. At this moment, the fighting spirit of the entire Xingtian Legion was at its peak. They had not participated in the recent battle, standing by to observe, and were now ready to join the fight. Thus, they gave Xiao Hong Lian and Ruan Tinghai the feeling of a pack of wolves howling. In their hearts, Xiao Hong Lian and Ruan Tinghai could not help but feel heavy. If a conflict arose between them at this time, it was very likely they would be in danger themselves. Xiao Hong Lian angrily furrowed her brow and shouted loudly at Xing Tian. Xing Tian, why aren't you following our contract to attack Zhang Yi's hideout and instead of appear here? Xing Tian smiled coldly and said, Isn't the intention of your group very clear? Both of you are masters of large resources. I came here just to collect a small toll. Isn't that unreasonable? The two large bases facing Xing Tian were extremely furious at being publicly robbed. However, they couldn't do anything else because they were severely injured and couldn't endure another large-scale battle. Ruan Tinghai said to Xing Tian, I don't understand. If you cooperate with us to defeat Zhang Yi, then we could share the Saishan and Lujiang area. But why did you choose not to help anyone? Do you know Zhang Yi's situation in advance? That was the doubt in Ruan Tinghai's mind. He was determined to clarify, even if it meant failure. Xiao Hong Lian also stared at Xing Tian, unsure of why he acted this way. Xing Tian crossed his arms and said coldly, The reason is very simple. The King Fu base doesn't have as many vehicles and energy resources as you do, nor can it manage many forces. Even if I win this battle, when it comes to sharing territory, I am still not a match for the two major bases. Therefore, Zhang Yi offered me 10 tons of food, and I gladly accept it. He spread his arms wide. He gives me 10 tons of food, so I don't have to do anything, while you all make empty promises for me to risk my life in battle. Just look at what you said. How should I choose? Xing Tian said, leaving Ruan Tinghai and Xiao Hong Lian at a loss for words. In reality, they did have such a plan. Once they defeated Zhang Yi and eliminated his hideout, they would immediately use their high mobility to seize the best areas and resources. In this regard, the worship, the Snow Sect, and King Fu could not compete with them at all. But they had not expected that Xing Tian would consider forming an alliance with Zhang Yi. Xing Tian did not want to waste words on them. Now let's talk about resolving this matter. His smile grew even more sinister. How much supplies will you provide to buy your way out? Xiao Hong Lian and Ruan Tinghai had no choice but to use a large amount of supplies to exchange for Xing Tian's forgiveness. In Xing Tian's heart, it felt like flowers were blooming. They didn't have to do anything in this battle, and as a result, they made a substantial profit from the supplies trade. Furthermore, with the weakening of the two major bases, they would become the leading force in Tianhai City from now on. Everyone thought Xing Tian was a fool, but now let's see who the real fool is. Xing Tian smiled happily. After the war ended, Zhang Yi decided to send Zhou Kai Ni to treat Lian Yu. The others chose to rest in the living room, recovering some strength. Zhang Yi said to everyone, You all have worked hard, let's celebrate today. In the warm and bright atmosphere of the shelter, everyone felt an infinite warmth, especially after a great battle. They relaxed on the soft sofa in this luxurious villa, enjoying favorite cups of coffee, which lifted their spirits even more. Zhang Yi cheerfully told everyone, Feel free to eat as much as you want, replenish what we have expended. Zhang Yi went to the medical room and brought food to Zhou Kai Ni. As soon as she saw Zhang Yi, Zhou Kai Ni anxiously said, The war is over. Zhang Yi asked about Lian Yu's condition. So how serious is Lian Yu's injury? Zhou Kai Ni picked up the cup of coffee, took a sip, and replied to Zhang Yi, The wound is quite deep, but I have sutured it. Kai Ni added, She is a mutant person of the enhancement type. Her body's recovery ability is much better than that of ordinary people, so there are no major obstacles. At this point, Kai Ni glanced at Zhang Yi with hidden meaning and said enviously, Mutant people are really lucky, with all sorts of advantages. Zhang Yi smiled, knowing that Zhou Kai Ni still remembered the ice beat in his hand. However, thinking about the mysteries of worshipping the Snow Sect, Zhang Yi still felt uneasy. He said, Your medical skills are perhaps no less than superpowers, right? In critical moments, we need your medical skills to save lives, don't we? Zhang Yi embraced Zhou Kai Ni and said with a smile, In our group, we may lack a mutant person, but we can't do without a doctor. Never underestimate yourself again. You are very important to us. Zhou Kai Ni smiled, feeling incredibly happy to be affirmed by Zhang Yi. Zhang Yixian and the remaining soldiers had returned, and seeing their numbers reduced by half, the hearts of the followers became tense. However, when Zhang Yixian stepped forward, bowed to Yuan Kong Yi, and declared, Cult leader, we have completed the mission. With the blessing of the Snow God, we have achieved great victory. The bases of Zhao Yu and Yang Sheng have suffered heavy losses from us, significantly weakening their power, no longer a threat to us in worshipping the Snow Sect. As soon as these words ended, cheers of excitement echoed everywhere, and people with tearful eyes embraced each other. The Worship the Snow Sect had waited a long time for a victory like this, and finally, they had triumphed, marking a historic moment. In Yuan Yi's eyes, a glimmer of hope also sparkled. She stepped forward, took Zhang Yixian's hand, and said, "You have worked hard, great priest. The gods will not forget your contributions in battle." Zhang Yixian looked up at her and said calmly, "But we have also lost many loyal followers, including Lin Fei and Meng Ziyuan. Lin Fei and Meng Ziyuan are mutant persons and worship the Snow Sect, taking on roles similar to that of a priest in the cult." Yuan Yi, with a gentle smile on her lips, arms crossed like a mother embracing her children, said, "They have not disappeared. They have returned here. I can feel their presence." Zhang Yixian quickly responded to Yuan Yi. "Each lost individual coexists here with a cult leader." A glimmer of sorrow flashed in Yuan Yi's eyes. "Now, nothing can stop us from expanding our reach. I want the glory of the snow god to spread throughout the city of Tianhai, then to the entire nation, and even to the whole world. The snow god will become the one and only deity. The glory of worship the Snow Sect will last forever." All the followers placed their right hands over their hearts, gazed up at the sky, and said in unison, "The glory of worship the Snow Sect will last forever." Their gazes upward resembled rays of sunlight, seemingly able to dispel the chill of the apocalypse. They wanted to spread their faith to every corner of the world. After the war ended, the balance of power in Tianhai City underwent significant changes. The bases of Zhao Yu and Yang Sheng, like the Worship the Snow Sect and King Fu base, suffer heavy damage due to betrayal and attacks. Fortunately, they still retained half of their combat forces and basic resources. This allowed them to avoid complete destruction, but they still needed a long time to restore their original strength. The most critical point was in caring for the wounded and retraining a group of elite soldiers. However, the loss of a large number of mutant persons was the most tragic pain for them, because regular soldiers could be replaced, but the emergence of new mutant persons was extremely rare. Therefore, they had no choice but to reduce their sphere of influence. All military forces were concentrated at the main base. Not only could they not expand their influence, but they could not even fully control their own territory. In a situation where the house leaks when it rains, the number of slaves starting to escape began to increase. Worship the Snow Sect cleverly propagated their message, and after many life and death battles, a certain level of trust was built. They shared both difficult times and glory. Zhou Haimai invited some girls to play cards together. The sound of cards being played echoed from the living room, creating a noisy atmosphere that made everyone feel comfortable. Zhang Yi, Chun Lai, and Uncle Wang seem to have nothing else to do but play poker or video games together. They are hiding in a place with abundant energy, where the gloomy sky outside cannot illuminate. The lights in their room are always bright, thanks to a lighting system worth billions of dollars, creating a cozy space with warm yellow light. When they are hungry, they can enjoy fresh cuisine in this space. When they are thirsty, they can choose from a temperature-controlled wine cabinet filled with premium wine, beer, and coffee brewed by Zhou Kai Nai herself. Saying that they are trying to survive in a post-apocalyptic world is less accurate than saying they are on vacation here. Perhaps Lian Yu temporarily cannot forget about this, but there is nothing that time cannot heal. Chun Lei saw Lian Yu passing by and asked, "Lian Yu, are you feeling any better?" Lian Yu turned back with a tired look, then said nothing and continued walking. Liu Keiran patted Chun Lai on the shoulder and said, "Don't mind her. These past few days, Lian Yu has been like this since she woke up. Perhaps she's still thinking about those students." Zhang Yi, who was sitting and playing Chinese chess, also spoke up. "Her mood has shifted a bit. Let her be. It doesn't seem to be anything serious at first glance. She just needs some time to calm down. After all, everyone needs to live in the present." Zhang Yi stood up, stretched, and continued. After the Yang Sheng and Zhao Yu bases were heavily damaged, there have been no major movements for now. Xing Tian has collected a great haul of spoils. The Worship the Snow Sect can also preach in Tianhai City without any restraint. This current situation can be considered our declaration of victory. At least we don't have to worry about them making any small moves in the short term. Zhang Yi glanced out the window and mumbled to himself. "Is something missing? It's too clean." Zhang Yi frowned in thought and suddenly realized something was off. Why were there no bodies in sight? After the battle, more than 1,000 bodies had been left behind, but now not a single one could be seen. Zhang Yi felt a chill. How can over 1,000 bodies suddenly disappear without a trace? He distinctly remembered them from yesterday afternoon. Zhang Yi wasn't too panicked. He took out his binoculars and carefully checked again to avoid any misjudgment. Had they been dealt with already? He wondered. However, after a meticulous search, he finally confirmed that he hadn't been mistaken and that the bodies were not covered by snow. Those bodies had truly vanished, leaving no trace behind. Zhang Yi's heart couldn't help but tighten. In the apocalypse, there are too many mysterious phenomena that are hard to explain, and even creatures could mutate. Could the bodies have transformed as well? Zhang Yi took a deep breath, trying to calm himself down. He changed into combat clothes, carefully prepared his weapon, and then opened the door to go downstairs. Zhou Haimei saw him and asked, "Are you planning to go outside?" Clearly, they did not notice the incident outside. "It's nothing, just some changes outside. I want to go take a look." Zhang Yi looked out the window and quietly stepped outside. Outside, gun in hand, Zhang Yi walked step by step toward the old battlefield. This place, once littered with corpses, now showed no signs of anything. The heavy snow overnight covered many things, yet it could not completely hide all traces. Over 1,000 corpses disappearing at once would definitely leave a mark. As Zhang Yi got closer, he finally noticed something unusual right around here. Under the snow cover, he vaguely saw many uneven footprints of varying depths. It seemed that a very large army had passed through this place. Moreover, these footprints were not heading toward here. There were only footprints going out. Zhang Yi was startled, feeling as if something cold was watching him from behind, making the hairs on his neck stand up, because he realized that these corpses had not been stolen by someone. They had stood up and walked away by themselves. Suddenly a noise echoed. Zhang Yi turned his head abruptly, but there was nothing behind him. His heart raced. He had to place his hand on his chest twice before feeling somewhat relief. He let out a sigh. Despite having killed countless people and experienced life and death, Zhang Yi still felt a chill down his spine, even fear, at this strange occurrence. He took a deep breath and told himself, "What am I afraid of? I've killed so many living beings. No matter how bizarre things may seem, they can't do anything to me." Zhang Yi mustered his courage and followed the faint footprints in the snow, moving forward. He noticed that these footprints were heading east without a visible endpoint, and he was unsure where the bodies had gone. Deep down, Zhang Yi still felt apprehensive and didn't dare to follow them alone. He quickly returned to the shelter and asked for everyone to be called. The others were in their home clothes, sitting around the sofa, and found it strange to see Zhang Yi in combat gear. Zhang Yi said, "What I am about to say, do not worry. First, take a deep breath to clear your minds." Hearing him say this, everyone inside couldn't help but feel anxious, but they still followed his instructions and took several deep breaths. Then Zhang Yi slowly began to speak in the calmest tone he could manage. Last night, over 1,000 corpses outside the shelter have disappeared, no longer seen anywhere. Zhang Yi continued, "From my observations of the footprints in the ground, it seems they may have moved on their own." Even though Zhang Yi spoke very calmly, after he said this, the atmosphere in the room seemed to grow colder. Zhou Kai-ne, with a pale face, hugged Yang Mai. "Zhang Yi, don't joke like this, it's too scary." Chun-Lei swallowed hard and asked Zhang Yi, "Brother Zhang, did you really dispose of all the bodies and pretend to joke with us?" Zhang Yi shook his head. "I don't want to believe it either, but the truth is right before our eyes. You can go see for yourselves." Everyone had just woken up in the morning, and no one noticed that the bodies outside had disappeared. At that moment, they hurriedly gathered by the window and indeed saw no bodies at all. Zhang Yi said calmly, "Let's finish our meal first, and then anyone who wants can go outside with me to see what happened. I found traces of their movement on the snow. As long as we follow the trail, we can find some clues." Zhou Kai-ne was stunned, her eyes filled with horror, her mind in chaos. How is this possible? Everyone looked at Zhang Yi, hoping this was just a strange joke of his. Therefore, Zhang Yi's suggestion received agreement from the group. The area of Exai-Shan and Lujiang is now their territory. Any suspicious events need to be clarified to avoid major trouble in the future. So everyone quickly finished their breakfast. Then Zhang Yi called some key mutant persons to prepare equipment together and followed the trail to investigate. This unexpected event made everyone dare not to be careless even for a moment. They were not afraid of those who created power, but maintained a cautious attitude towards mysterious events. Since the apocalypse began, more and more inexplicable things had emerged. This even reminded Zhang Yi of a theory from ancient texts. During the years of disaster, demons and ghosts will appear. Upon careful observation, Zhang Yi noticed that this group of people was not using vehicles and was cautiously moving forward along the clearly visible footprints in the snow. The heavy snowfall made everyone's mood increasingly urgent. Perhaps they were all worried about encountering these strange corpses. Zhang Yi took a deep breath. "Let's drive on. It seems they have gone far tonight." They continued their journey, not knowing how long they had been traveling. The footprints on the ground did not disappear. They did not see any corpses appear either. This made them even more convinced that these corpses had come here on their own feet. Although everyone was wearing combat gear in the freezing snowy environment, they still felt uncomfortable. After driving for several tens of minutes, they finally reached the point where the footprints disappeared. Zhang Yi and the others got out of the vehicle and quickly moved forward. Next, they saw a very large cave deep and bottomless on the snowy surface. The mouth of the cave was dark with no bottom in sight and no light, exuding a chilling atmosphere as if it wanted to swallow everything. Zhang Yi couldn't help but swallow hard, then quietly took a few steps back. Chun-Li looked at Uncle Wang and exclaimed, "What is going on with these corpses? Why are they gathered here?" Uncle Wang also felt it was strange. Could it be that someone has the ability to control these strange corpses? Lian Yu couldn't help but wonder, but controlling thousands of moving corpses from such a distance is truly a frightening and abnormal ability. The scene fell silent abruptly. After the Ice Age, over 10 million people in Tianhai City had died. If someone really could control such a large number of corpses, they could easily annihilate any force. Chun-Li trembled, saying, "Could this be a sign of a zombie outbreak?" He had seen his fair share of zombie movies, and the image of zombies besieging a city was deeply ingrained in his mind. However, Zhang Yi shook his head. "I hope it's just a situation like that." He looked at Chun-Li, smirking as he said, "You don't really think that there are actual zombies like in the movies that could pose a great threat to us, do you? Their group could kill the living. If there really were a bunch of slow zombies that could be easily eliminated when their heads were knocked off, they wouldn't be scary at all for Zhang Yi's group." Zhang Yi brushed his hand over a footprint in the snow and analyzed. "This is not scientific. At such low temperatures, corpses would be stiff. How could they move like normal people? Looking at those chaotic footprints, they definitely were not dancing their way here." Uncle Wang looked around at the tall buildings and slowly confirmed his guess. "I know this place. I have been to this area called Sijulu Yuan. We are standing right above the Sijulu Yuan subway station." Everyone looked down at their feet to check. Zhang Yi immediately understood. "I see. It means that these corpses really passed through the stop to enter the subway tunnel, right? The subway is originally underground, and now it is buried beneath the thick snow. Therefore, the place where they are standing is about 20 to 30 meters higher. It's no surprise that it looks like a deep cave." Lian Yu frowned. "If so, is there something in the subway tunnel controlling these corpses?" Uncle Wang looked at Zhang Yi and asked, "What should we do about this place? If someone can actually control the corpses, then he certainly isn't just controlling over 1,000 of them. The number could be unimaginable. If that person becomes our opponent, it will be very difficult to deal with." Chun-Li suggested, "Should we destroy this place to prevent them from attacking us from underground?" Uncle Wang replied thoughtfully, "Do you know how vast the subway network in Tianhai City is? How can you destroy the entire subway network?" At this time, Zhang Yi spoke up. "Right now, we don't need to worry about them. We haven't had any conflict with them, so we shouldn't actively make contact. Let's keep our distance from this place. No one should approach." As Zhang Yi spoke, he motioned for everyone to step back. The depths of the subway could conceal significant danger, so Zhang Yi advised everyone, "From now on, stay away from this place. No one should come close unless necessary." Zhang Yi will not leave his team in there just to investigate that area. Lian Yu frowned and asked, "So are we going to keep these mysteries?" Zhang Yi smiled enigmatically. "Just let it stay there. After all, if something goes wrong, the one who will have the biggest headache won't be us." As Uncle Wang said, the subway system in Tianhai City covers a wide area and connects the entire city. The Yanku Villa is located on the outskirts of the city, with only the line from Songzhuang to Sijulu Yuan nearby. If something goes wrong, canceling it is also an option. However, in the territories of other forces, the railway network is more complex and has more people. If anything unusual happens, they will be the first to encounter us. Don't worry about it anymore. Zhang Yi slowly stepped back about 4 to 5 meters away from the entrance of the subway tunnel before turning to get into the vehicle. On another day, Yu Lu apartment complex welcomed a person wearing a red Taoist robe. Zhao Yuding, the great ordnance holder, appeared in the snowstorm leaning on a staff. Only 18 people remained alive in the Yu Lu apartment complex. They had survived by using the bodies of the dead and Lian Jian's sacrificed ability to nurture food. However, the decision to use Ice Beat to awaken superpowers led them to decide to join the Worship the Snow Sect. When the Great Ordnance arrived, Lian Jian and the building's residents quickly went out to greet him. Lei Jing'an said excitedly, his eyes filled with reverence, "I pay my respects to the esteemed Great Ordnance." At that moment, this was still the territory of the Xishan base. They did not dare to stay too long, and the conversion had to be carried out discreetly. But now, the 3 major bases had been destroyed or weakened, and they could only withdraw. Worship the Snow Sect no longer needed to hide its missionary work. Great Ordnance looked at Li Jian and said with a smile, "Li Jian, the Snow God has granted you abilities, and it seems you have utilized them very well." Li Jian bowed. "Praise the Snow God, praise the omnipotent cult leader. Thank you, Great Ordnance, for helping you receive the blessing of the cult leader. Now we can survive." Great Ordnance nodded and smiled, his gaze shifting from Lai Jian to Lai Jian's son Lai Kai. He continued, "Now I have good news for you. You have been allowed by the cult leader to come with us to Tianfeng. There you will live together with the cult leader and all the followers." Hearing the words of Great Ordnance, Lai Jian and the others looked bewildered. Tianfeng District. Although it's not far from here, they are accustomed to life in Yulu District. Of course, survival is the most important thing. They do not wish to change their current situation hastily. In the apocalypse, all uncertain things cause fear in people. Seeing his hesitation, Great Ordnance added, "Do not be afraid. It is a paradise in the apocalypse. All members of worship the Snow Sect are there, supporting each other, building a strong community. In the not-too-distant future, it will become a society unaffected by the apocalypse. Beyond imagination, you have been chosen and are qualified to live there. I have spoken to the cult leader about you, Lei Jian. He highly values your abilities and sees you as an indispensable part of worship the Snow Sect." Lei Jian was astonished and speechless, unable to believe what he had just heard. Great Ordnance continued to persuade Lei Jian, "So, as long as you agree, you and your family will receive special care." Lei Jian was taken aback by this offer. A person like him being directly addressed by the cult leader was indeed a great honor. Now, everyone in the area admired the worship the Snow Sect, viewing it as a sacred land. They had survived until today thanks to the blessings of the cult leader, which helped Lai Jian awaken his special abilities. Li Jian's emotions surged as he knelt before Great Ordnance, honoring the great snow god, revering the beloved cult leader. "I, Li Jian, pledge to dedicate my strength to worship the Snow Sect." Great Ordnance was very pleased with Lai Jian's attitude. "Rise, my child. Bring your family and your daily necessities and follow me to worship the Snow Sect." Everyone was very happy. They packed their clothes and food. Then the survivors of the building filled with hope followed Great Ordnance to worship the Snow Sect. The journey from the Yulu area to the Great Winyu Road Tianfeng was quite far. Fortunately, they all harbored hope for a bright future. This helped them overcome this snowstorm to reach their destination. Worship the Snow Sect is currently experiencing an unprecedented period of prosperity. More and more people are joining the sect. The priests and parish priests are maintaining order, distributing food and clothing to newcomers while conveying the teachings of worship the Snow Sect to them. Li Jian and his group arrived at this place, witnessing many strange things. However, he paid little attention. He and his family were immersed in the joy of joining a happy society. Great Ordnance said to Lai Jian, "Follow me, Lai Jian. The cult leader wants to see you." Li Jian was surprised, but did not forget to worry about his wife and son. "What about my wife and son?" Great Ordnance smiled and replied, "Don't worry. They will be well taken care of." Hearing this, Lai Jian felt truly reassured. His wife, Zhang Jianfang, also encouraged him. "Being summoned by the cult leader is an honor. You should go. We will wait here." Li Jian nodded under the admiring gazes of those around him. He followed Great Ordnance for the enormous church. Others were led away by nuns with bright smiles. As he opened the large door of the church, Li Jian looked inside with a respectful mindset. Outside, the sky was full of dark clouds, but inside the church, it seemed to be enveloped in pure light. Only the altar shone brilliantly. He saw a woman in a red robe standing there, her back turned to him, showing respect. He thought to himself, "Is the cult leader a woman?" Seeing the doubt in Li Jian's eyes, Great Ordnance cleared his throat and said, "The divine is present everywhere. The image of him takes countless forms and is determined by the inner faith of the believers. Therefore, there is no need to worry about such details." Li Jian quickly replied, "Yes, I understand." He understood everything clearly. However, Li Jian was an intelligent person. He never exposed these thoughts outwardly. He was grateful for the grace of worship the Snow Sect, but that did not mean he blindly believed in the divine. Some thoughts should remain in one's heart and not be spoken aloud. Li Jian bowed his head. "I pay my respects to the cult leader. I have received the cult leader's grace and survived to this day. I am Li Jian." Yuan Kong Yi stepped closer to Li Jian. "I have heard of you. Great Ordnance has told me that you are a being full of hope, blessed by the divine and granted strength. From now on, you will be the shepherd of worship the Snow Sect. God has led you here, and you have your own mission to fulfill." Li Jian felt the blood surge within him. He was one chosen by God, and he had a special mission. Li Jian shouted aloud, "I am willing to dedicate myself entirely to worship the Snow Sect." Yuan Kong Yi nodded with satisfaction. "Very well, follow me." After saying this, she turned around and walked towards the back of the chapel. At that moment, Li Jian did not know what he was doing. In his eyes, there was only the image of Yuan Kong Yi, and he knew that he had to follow her. When Li Jian regained a bit of consciousness, he found himself in a strange place. He was standing in a castle, but it resembled more of a deep valley in the mountains. A type of gigantic plant about 5 to 6 meters tall stood before him. Its trunk was covered in gray, but the cracks revealed a blood-red color. The trunk occasionally expanded and contracted gently, as if it were breathing. The entire building was covered in small fragments of it. The leaves curled in a bizarre way, resembling butterfly cocoons seemingly containing something inside. Lai Jian opened his eyes wide, his mouth agape. He had never seen such a strange and gigantic plant before. Yuan Kong Yi stood in front of the plant and explained to him, "This is the holy tree of the worship of the Snow Sect. It can extend its roots hundreds of meters deep into the ground to absorb nutrients, then grow fruit. Its fruit is the most important food source for us." Yuan Kong Yi said, slowly raising her hand. A cucumber vine from the tree descended, dropping a red fruit into her palm. This tree seemed to have its own intelligence. At that moment, Lai Jian finally understood where the red fruit he had seen earlier came from. Yuan Kong Yi approached, handed him the fruit, and smiled. "This is our hope for survival. Do you want to try a little?" Li Jian nodded and took the fruit. Immediately, he sensed a strange and enticing aroma, the kind he had never experienced before in his life, which made him lose control of his body. He grasped the fruit and slowly ate it. From the corner of his mouth, a viscous liquid flowed out like blood, yet after finishing the fruit, he truly felt his body filled with strength. The feelings of hunger and cold had completely vanished. Yuan Kong Yi said to Lai Jian, "Lai Parish Priest, your mission is to use your abilities to nourish this holy tree. Only when it grows strong and thrives can we nurture more believers." Li Jian nodded decisively. "Yes, I will obey your command, cult leader." He approached the base of the tree, pulled out a small knife from his person, and cut into his finger. Although it was just a small wound, his blood flowed like a stream. The holy tree greedily absorbed each drop of his blood, and the strange blue light on the trunk became even more brilliant. Yuan Kong Yi did not allow Lai Jian to continue bleeding and stepped forward, using his powers to help him stop the bleeding. "From now on, you must use your blood daily to nourish the holy tree. This is your glorious mission." Li Jian nodded. In his eyes appeared a noble and profound expression, as if this had become an important and meaningful part of his life.